Just decide to make an upgrade. Welcome back to the Upgrade My Classroom podcast. My name is Kevin McKellar, the host, and this is the show where we teach proactive mental health and personal development strategies for teens so that teachers and education professionals can come, listen, pick up some things, and go back and actually upgrade their classroom with better decision-making frameworks for students, being able to teach students how to see clear choices, how to teach students to recognize gratitude, perspective, and a whole slew of other SEL strategies. And today I brought on a really, really fun guest. Her name is Kate Garnes, and she is a youth speaker as well. And she's got a very interesting backstory because I saw her, actually listened to her on another podcast, and I said, it is very rare where there are other music teachers or music education majors turned youth speakers. So I said, you know what? I got to reach out and have her on the show. And she was kind enough to give us her time, and I'm really excited. So her career is very fascinating because she did something that I didn't really mention in the episode because I already knew about it, but it is by far one of the coolest jobs. She was a character actor in Disney World. So when you would go to Disney and see Mickey or Minnie or whoever, I actually didn't even ask her which character she was in there. So very, very fun. And now she works with teens and teaching them and speaking to them all about their worth as a human being and how to develop their sense of self-worth. And we talk a lot about not only self-worth, but the attachment of self-worth and some of those dangers, using my example. We also get into a little bit about the issues regarding excuses. And I'm not talking about excuses of, my car broke down or I got in traffic so I'm late. I mean the excuses that teens make for themselves that puts them in boxes so they can feel safe, so they don't have to get outside their comfort zone, so they don't have to reach to that school they want to apply for this, so they don't have to go out on that limb and test themselves and bring themselves to the next level. So we have a really, really awesome conversation, and what a fun human being. So let's get into today's conversation with my friend Kate Garnes. All right, Kate, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be so much fun.
Well, no, I'm even more excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. We have a very, very similar background. You're probably a few steps ahead of where we are now, but we've kind of come for the same route. So without me blabbing on too much, can you take the floor a little bit and give us the 60-second rundown of who Kate is and what she does and who she helps?
Well, to understand who Kate is, you have to know where Kate came from. So I am originally from the great state of Missouri. I don't live there anymore. I now live in Orlando, Florida. But for the first 20-something years of my life, I always thought I was going to be a music teacher. You're going to love it. When you're a teacher. And then I got to my final semester of school and I was in front of a choir and I was like, oh, I hate this. I hate this. This is not at all what I want to do with my life. And so then I found out about the Disney College program, auditioned, ended up getting hired as a character performer and actor. And so moved down to Orlando, did that for about 7 years when I realized, this isn't what I want to do either. I don't know what I want to do. Ended up going to my 10-year high school reunion where I was the only one. I was 28. I didn't have any babies. I wasn't married. I was super painfully single. And a girl, I was sad. I was so sad because I was like, I failed. Being from the Midwest, you really are taught that to be successful, you go to college or you go to high school, you go to college, you get married, you have 2 kids, and you either become a teacher or a nurse. And I had none of those things, and I was playing dress up for a living. So I was literally just like, I failed. And a girl walked up to me and said, well, Kate, life doesn't always go how we think it will. What do you want your life to look like? And when I tell you what I call God, some people call the universe, some people call energy, I call God, said, you want to be a motivational speaker. And I had never said it out loud before. So I said, I want to be a motivational speaker. And in that moment, every question, every doubt I had was instantly gone. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that was what I was put on this earth to do. So I flew home to Orlando and just immersed myself in anything I could get my hands on. That was September of 16. February of 18, I had my first paid gig. In 2019, I was a full-time speaker. And then COVID hit, and the world was like, you have dreams? That's hilarious. So it's just been rebuilding after that.
Yeah.
I do speak to teenagers. I speak on how to find your worth and your value when no one shows up to tell you that you're worthy or valuable. I'm super ridiculously passionate about teens. I think it's really hard to be a teen in today's world. And so anything I can do to help them have just a little bit more hope and a little bit more confidence, that's why I do what I do. So there you go. Kate Garnes in a nutshell, everybody.
There we go. Thank you for listening. We'll see you that's it. That's it. That is awesome. I gotta ask you before we go on, because I do want to touch on the self-worth and kind of dig into that.
Of course.
Your choir, you said you were in front of your choir your last semester. Was that a lab choir, or was that a actual student choir you were student teaching, or what? Give us the context on that.
It was a student choir. Yeah, it was a student. So the way it works at Wichita State, which is where I went to school, the semester before you're done, you have like it's like pre-student teaching. So it's not student teaching yet, but it's like pre-student teaching. So you go in and you teach just a lesson or two to a high school or middle school. And then your student teaching is when you're actually like, it's your own classroom or whatever. Sure. And I did get my degree. I did finish, but never became a music teacher. So
yeah. Well, and that's one of the biggest things. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. The problem. I mean, again, I'm going to go off on a tangent for 30 seconds, so bear with me. But I think it adds to a lot of stress of what teenagers are facing with. Right now, the college bubble has not burst yet, and we're trying to figure out if it will, when it will, how it will. But right now, a 16-year-old has to make a decision. Maybe 17 has to make a decision on what they kind of are going to do for the rest of their lives. And if they make the wrong decision, they're going to throw anywhere between possibly $50,000 to $100,000 or even more down the drain. That is insane, and that's just not possible because our brains are not developed.
Correct. I was talking. I did something very ballsy, which I don't usually do. I was speaking at a conference up north, and they wanted me to do a workshop. 2 different workshops, and I only have 1 workshop. So I was like, okay. And I ended up sitting all these teens in a circle, and I said, I am your token adult. Tell me what you want adults to hear and actually listen and hear you. And one of the things was, we're tired. We're so tired because we have to have everything. I mean, there are magnet middle schools now, like health professions middle schools. Like, when I was in middle school, I was just worried about winning at Mario Kart. Like,
where I was going to sit in the lunch period.
That was my level of stress.
Yeah.
Oh, which is still the worst thing to figure out when you're an adult. It's real. It's so real. But I had one girl who said, yeah, I thought I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, but I waited too long to get into the right classes. She's a sophomore in high school.
Oh my gosh.
She can't even legally drive yet, and yet she feels like she missed the boat. She waited too long. So no, you're speaking truth. It's wild. It's awful. It's awful that they feel that kind of pressure. It's awful.
So they're feeling the pressure. Now this girl is a sophomore. She says, or she thinks that she can't go on. She waited too long to be a neurosurgeon. You said?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Neurosurgeon.
So, okay. Sorry. So now she's sitting there and she's like, what do I do? Is this a person who has speaking of self-worth, is this a person who has wrapped their self-worth in the career, or she just kind of wanted to do that and feels like she can't do it now, so she has to kind of start from square one? Like where specifically with this student, where do you think, if you know?
Yeah. 100%. Great question. Well, the whole reason she wanted to be a neurosurgeon, it was either a neuro or a heart surgeon. It was one of the two. And it was because her life was saved by a neurosurgeon or a heart surgeon. I can't, like I said, I can't remember which one. But she feels like there was a lot of pressure from her parents coming on to pick what she wanted to do. And a lot of just negative recordings in her own head of, oh no, I'm not smart enough. I'll never be smart enough to be able to get here, here, and here, or I'll never be able to do this. And it's heartbreak. I mean, that's one of the main things I talk about is the recordings that we tell ourselves. The one person made one comment to you one time. Somebody called you fat. Someone called you stupid. Someone called you ugly. Somebody made fun of the way that you read. Somebody made fun of the way you walk. And that became your truth. And that became what you tell yourself. And then it's not their voice saying it, it's your own voice saying it. And so her dad made one comment to her about, well, do you think you'll actually be able to be smart enough to da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And then she was like, oh, I must not be smart enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough. And so it's just, it's an ever revolving door that someone needs to come in and break the cycle.
So besides college, what are the other things that students do you find in your work? Like, what are the other things that students are having these issues when it comes to self-worth or I don't want to say looping stress in, because there could be very different factors of stress versus self-worth, but self-worth or poor storytelling. What are some of the other things that you're hearing besides what do I do with college? Am I like, how will I actually become that because of X, Y, and Z?
Right.
Like, what else is going on?
Social media, for sure. Social media is a huge one in the comparison factor of, you don't realize that what people post is their highlight reel. People don't post their ugly. People don't post their bloopers. People don't post their mistakes. They don't post their failures. People only post with the perfect filter, with the perfect hashtag. And a lot of, and this is something that's very, very prevalent in teens now, is that if they post something on social media and it doesn't get enough likes or comments, they'll take it down.
Right.
It doesn't matter how brilliant that thing that they posted is, their worth is attached to what they post. And if it doesn't get enough, then it's obviously not good enough to be out there, and they take it down. So there is a big push to try to always be on top of the latest trends. Make sure you're posting the right things. Oh no, so-and-so posted this picture of this thing and it looks perfect. Now I have to try and do that, and I'll never be able to make that picture look this way, make my life look this way. There is such a, what's the word I want? Stigma? No, that's not the word I want. I don't know what the word I want is. But I would say social media is such a, while I love social media because it gives us a way to connect in a way we've never been able to connect before, there also is a dark side to it. And I think that teens are a little bit the victims of that.
Marie Forleo says, calls it Compereschlager. Don't drink the Compereschlager.
Love Marie Forleo. I love her. I did her B school. I took B school.
Oh, you did?
From her.
Interesting. Very cool. We'll have to talk more about that. So
yeah.
Okay. So students they're dealing with a lot of different things: pressure from their friends, pressure from their parents, pressure from the internet. It makes them feel not worthy. Talk to me about when a student specifically attaches their self-worth to one thing. I'll give you an example. And maybe you can relate. As a euphonium player, which by the way we did not talk about, I'm like that's the one thing that we have the big difference, is that you're a vocalist and I'm a euphonium player way over there. Not even in the same rehearsal, not even in the same thing. I became so attached to the self-worth, and this has really happened after my undergrad, because I was music ed. I went really down the performing route, and I did my master's work at the Liège Conservatory in Belgium, and Applied for the doctorate at Rutgers. I actually got accepted. Didn't go because they didn't give me even half of the money. So I was like, guys, I can't. I love you, but I can't go down this road.
Right.
I became so attached to my performing. If I was not a good performer that day, if I did not perform well, I was just a mess, and I was not a good person. And I was like, where am I? And my professor, actually, I just interviewed recently for my undergrad. He said something great. I think it was from a mentor of his, where he said, when you look at a garden, there is a beautiful garden is a beautiful garden, but a beautiful garden doesn't mean that every single petal on every single flower is absolute perfection. And I had no idea about that. I was so driven by not even so much of the art. Obviously the art was there, but the performance. So whether it's if you have any other music examples, that's fine. But any example of a student that attaches their self-worth to something very specific, and it's just all encompassing. Do you find any specific ways of how to help them out of that, and how to remove that huge part of their life, or what they think is a huge part of their life?
Yeah, that's such a good question. That's a really, really good question. The biggest thing that's jumping out to me right now, thinking through students who have come up and talked to me, and I'm sure as a speaker, that's one of the coolest parts of our job, is after we tell our story, Absolutely. They come and tell us their story. I know that I can't think of something that is crazy specific other than grades. They get so hyper focused. Yes.
Perfect example.
They get so hyper focused on, I cannot get an A-. If there's this connection between, if I don't show up for every single one of my classes and all of my extracurriculars and work my job and help my family at home and continue to get all A's, then I failed. There is no in between. There is no, I exist. I just managed to exist today in this insane world, and that's a win. It is either... I also feel like, at least for teen leaders, there is this lie of, if I don't get to the end of my day and I just fall into bed exhausted, if I don't do that, if I don't push so hard and give everything I have so that at the end of the day I am completely depleted, then I didn't try hard enough. Then I didn't lead well enough. Then I was lazy. Where we start, and I say we, but especially teens and teen leaders, we forget that we have to take care of ourselves first. You have to fill your own cup before you can help fill others. But especially teens, have started believing this lie that, no, I have to make sure my teachers are all satisfied and happy with me, and my parents are happy with me, and the kids I'm leading at school are happy with me, and my community is happy, and my church is happy, and my siblings are happy. And then once all of that is done, then if there's time for me, then I can take care of myself. But everybody else has to come first. And that being, I've got to keep my grades up because I don't want to disappoint my parents. I don't want to disappoint my teachers. I don't want to disappoint my coaches. Even just saying all this, I'm feeling that pressure, on my own shoulders, and I'm not even in high school. There is so much pressure to be perfect. I love the example that you just said about the garden. That's so beautiful. I literally just wanted to sit in that moment because that was such a beautiful thing that you said. And you know what? I'm going to throw myself right on under the bus with the teens here, that sometimes that is so hard to see when you are so close to that one flower that has that one petal that's wilted, and you can't, but it's but if I try hard enough, I will fix this petal. But we can't see the beautiful garden that has grown because we are so focused. And a lot of times we just have to step back, and that's really hard to do when you are driven by making sure your grades are perfect, making sure you don't mess up at work, making sure that you make all your extracurriculars, making sure that you not only get the great grades, but do all of the extra credit. Make sure you go to all of the football games and basketball games and baseball games and also show up for your family and also work your job and also don't get a speeding ticket. And like, even just saying all of that is exhausting. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yes. No. So, well, you said one word. You said close. Well, you said two words. You said close and then back up. So I'm assuming the one word that is the key here for students is perspective.
Yes.
So how do you find, and if you do, I'm curious if you have ways that you, in your programs or even just the one-on-one conversations, how are you able to show a 16-year-old perspective on their life when they haven't lived much of it? Is it through examples? Is it through your own life? Is it through your how do we begin to do that?
So looking at it from a speaker perspective, I tell stories. We are drawn to stories. We, even as little kids, Mom, tell me a story. Dad, tell me a story. So my talk is very, very story driven. Because people relate to stories. I can sit here and tell you all day, you need to not compare yourself to others. You need to give yourself perspective. But what they will actually attach to is a story of me saying, no, I got to think of an example. I had this dance teacher that looked me in the eyes and said, some kids aren't good enough for this dance class. And it made me feel so small and it made me feel unworthy. How many of you have ever felt small or unworthy? And I will usually put my hand in the air and they'll raise their hands and I'll say, thank you so much for your honesty. So looking at your question from a speaker perspective, I tell stories because people will always be able to relate with a story. Yeah. They may not know the exact pinpoint of what I mean, but I tell stories. From a human perspective, if I'm having a one-on-one conversation, first, I always try to honor the person with where they are. If I'm talking to a 16-year-old, I am not going to say, oh my God, you got your heart broken. No, you don't even know what love is. No, I will never say that. I will never, ever, because I got told that. And let me tell you what, I was very in love with Corey Simmons my freshman year of high school. Lord help us all. I was so in love with that boy. Yeah. But, I will always honor, even if I don't understand the emotion they're saying, I will always honor what they're sharing with me. That must have been really hard. I am so sorry to hear that. Tell me more. That made you feel really alone, didn't it? I've been there. That's one thing I'll always say. I've been there. I have been there. And you are not alone. You're not walking through it alone. I will tell you, it gets better. That's another thing I'll say. It gets better. It's different, but it gets better. And, and then I will try to say something like, have you tried to look at it like this? Have you tried to think, when so-and-so, when Brittany's picking on you, you just told me this whole story about how Brittany was so mean to you and it really made you feel small. Have you ever thought that maybe that has nothing to do with you, that her insecurities are coming through, and it has nothing to do with who you are, what you wear, what you do, how you pray, how you vote, how you walk, has nothing to do with you. It's her own insecurities. Like, man, and then I'll say something like, man, isn't that a freeing thought? That other people's actions have nothing to do with you. So, and I kind of hope that answered your question, that there's two... looking at it from two different perspectives. Yeah. No, it's
extremely difficult. That's why I ask, and I mean to put you on the spot. It's extremely difficult to show teens the road they're going to be going down because they haven't traveled it yet and they don't have the life experience, and that's part of what makes being a teenager tricky. So when we have things like technology and social media that are blowing up so fast that I can barely hang on, that when we have, you know, the college world and that the struggles that will be continuing to, it's just very, very difficult while they're dealing with all the regular things that are going on. I want to kind of transition to something else that you've seen a lot, talked a lot, and that I kind of resonate because, gosh, I was really good at this when I was in high school. Really good at making excuses. I was the best. Yeah. Nothing was my fault. No, nothing was my fault. I was perfect, you know? And, you know, I mean, I psychoanalyze myself so much. You know, I've kind of figured out why all this is, you know, got I mean, you know, my mother is the greatest person on the face of the earth. And she did the best thing in the world, but the the nature of who I was and who she was, it married up a little bit incorrectly because I had already an ego that was from day one. And when my mom just thought that everything, like the sun shined out of my butt, like it just created a really bad situation. So I was really good at making excuses when something bad happened that was 100% my fault. If I was late to work, it was because I didn't leave enough time. But no, because, you know, there was a traffic, or you know. So talk to me about excuses. What's going on now today? What should teachers be aware of? Because sometimes, you know, teachers, again, talking about perspective, are so close to their students. Yeah. They're not necessarily so in touch with what's been going on, you know, in the lunchroom and in the locker room and all that stuff. Talking about excuses.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good. So this is something that I have to catch myself on, like as a 34-year-old adult human being. So, yeah. Oh my gosh. Such a good question. There is a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of it of but it's not my fault. Well, you can't be mad at me because my dog ate my homework. Or, well, but I didn't have a ride because my mom had to take me here. Okay, well, you should have figured that out beforehand. So when you look at excuses that are being made, you have those kind of excuses. And then the excuses that I'm more, when I know you picked up on looking at my website and stuff, is the excuse of, well, I'll never be that good. Well, I'll never be as good as so-and-so. I would never get that scholarship because I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not pretty enough. Those are the kind of excuses that I'm not even going to try and go out for that job because I won't get it. And so they don't even try on certain things. That's kind of the excuses that make me come unglued, more or less. I mean, when I became a speaker, a lot of people saw my success and they wanted to come and pick my brain. Let me take you to coffee. Let me take you to lunch. Can I pick your brain? Absolutely. 100%. And then they would hear what I actually had to go through to find success as a speaker, to leave my full-time job, to be very alone, to feel very, very isolated, to not have anyone to talk to because I wasn't friends with anyone who had started their own business or been an entrepreneur. And I really didn't know anybody who was a speaker. And so you tell people, well, yeah, I sent thousands of emails. I crafted my talk for hundreds of hours. And they're like, oh, well, because my favorite question to ask anybody is, what's your unrealistically huge dream? Like just shooting for the fences. What is your big dream? And they'll tell me. And I'll be like, yes, let's do it. Well, I can't do it because, finances. Well, I can't, maybe in 2 years. Well, da, da, da. And what I will literally say is, I can't help you.
Right.
I can't help you because all you're doing is making excuses for why you can't achieve something. And one thing I say in my talk is, I am taking away, I am giving you permission to be your biggest advocate as opposed to your biggest critic. Because we tend to be told we're our biggest critic. And we have to realize if nobody is going to show up to save us if we don't find ourselves worth saving. Like, no one is going to show up to help us get where we want to be if we don't find ourselves worth taking that first step. And that first step is scary. It's so scary. It's so vulnerable. Becoming a speaker was terrifying for me. But you have to stop making excuses on why you want to keep lowering your standards when really you shouldn't have to lower your standards for anyone ever. Like, I will not lower my standards because other people are too afraid to raise their own. If that makes any sense at all.
I mean, yeah, it's so powerful. I'm really, there's so much that I'm thinking through and so many different areas I'd like to kind of continue on. To be respectful of your time, I'm really, really blown away. Because there's so many intricate things that are going on in a student's life, and like to unpack it's and to try to help them in a short amount of time, because again, the school system is not built for this. It's not built
Correct.
for social emotional learning.
Correct.
It's not built for mental health at all. It's built for factory workers, and we don't have the time in our day, especially with the state being, and whatever state you're in, they just have so much of their fingers in our curriculum. So
Correct.
it's like, we do this and we do this for a reason, because, we see that it's the most important. Let me ask you, for your own, in your own life, when you were, whether you were a teenager, early 20s, whatever point in your life, did you have like a breakthrough moment that not for a career wise, but like a breakthrough moment personally where you looked at, you said, man, everything's on me. I'm taking ownership now on not only what I'm going to do with my life, but how I'm going to navigate it internally. Because I feel like from our conversation off camera, and from my world and from a lot of people I hear that are in some type of either entrepreneurial situation or some type of successful performing situation too, there's been this moment like, no, I'm getting on stage, or I'm going to get that job, or I'm going to start that business because it's my job, my responsibility, and I can, and it's going to feel awesome because I'm accountable myself. Did you have anything like that happen in your life?
Yeah, sort of. Once I became a speaker and I made the scary decision to step away from Disney full time, because I was working full time as a performer. I worked full time for almost 10 years. And once I made the decision to step back and really trust in the dream that I was given, and I think that was the big one for me, because before that I had a lot of safety nets. I was always working for someone else. I was always, I'm a very good rule follower. I'm very good at following the rules. In fact, I'm the one who's like, look how good I am at following the rules. Tell me I did a good job. Like, I'm that person. And so, having to step out of that, be my own boss, ask people to pay me a certain amount of money to bring me in to speak was very difficult for me at first. But then realizing, no, okay, I am a complete person on my own. I am worthy of, I have a story worth hearing. I have a message that will help teenagers, and I trust in that. If I mess up, I know it is on me, and I don't allow myself to say, I'm sorry, it's just, or I'm sorry, but. No, I am sorry. I am so sorry I missed your email. I am so sorry I missed this, perfect example with you. I said something like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I completely missed this message on, yes, I still want to be part of your podcast. just really taking ownership and responsibility for if you drop the ball, if you miss something. Now, I will say this is another big moment for me, was owning when I made a mistake and allowing myself to let it go. Yep, I sure did forget that appointment, and I still got charged for that appointment. Man, that really sucks. But you know what? We're going to take a deep breath, and we're going to keep moving, because I am not a lesser person because of it. I'm not weak because of it. I am not a jerk because of it. I am human, and that's okay. I think that was the even bigger step in my life, was learning how to forgive myself when I messed up, because I had taken on this big, like, writing a book, becoming a speaker, leaving my full-time job, learning, because obviously we're going to mess up all the time.
Every day.
Learning how to, man, that really sucks that I forgot to book this rental car and now there are no rental cars available. Okay, we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to take an Uber and we're going to figure it out. Learning how to just be so kind and graceful to myself, because I can't expect people to be kind and graceful to me if I'm not kind and graceful to myself. So did that kind of answer your question?
With that, no, it's 100%. With that, what a perfect place to put a pin on it. I'm very impressed by you. I'm very happy to speak with you. Kate Garnes, where can we find more information about you, but where can we find? I think I heard some little bit of a little hint in there. Where can we find some resources, written or either otherwise, where we can learn more about Kate?
Yeah, so I am on all social media. You can find me at Kate Garnes Live, KateGarnesLive. But I do have a book. I wrote a book back in 2019. It's called, I don't have a copy on me right now. It's called Mixtape, How to Stop Listening to the Recordings of Your Past. It is written for young adults and adults, and it's basically different recordings that I've had in my life that a comment people have made to me, like, you can't sit with us, or I need you to like me, I can't mess up, I have nothing left to give. So every chapter of the book is a different recording that I have had in my life and how I learned to record over it, and then the last couple chapters are good recordings that I now have. Like, I have a story worth hearing. I am worth saving. I am a gladiator. There's different. So that's that. And other than that, you can check out my website, kategarnes.com.
Don't forget the www. It's very important.
www. World Wide Web, folks.
With that being said, thank you, Kate, for your time and your passion and energy. You are awesome.
Oh, yeah. You're awesome.
So thanks so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed it. Kate was such a fun guest to interview. I had a great time, and I hope you learned some things, and I hope you saw some things from a different perspective, because, like I said, teens are putting so much pressure on themselves. As she explained, they're putting so much their self-worth into other people's beliefs in them and not their own. So the more we can have those conversations with teens, I think they'll be better off. And if you want to learn more about Kate, you could check her out on her website. I'll leave the link below. And you could check out her book, Mixtape, which is so cool. The recordings of your past, and how to stop listening to the recordings of your past. Such a cool title, and I love the format of the book. So definitely go check that out. If you like today's episode, definitely let me know by actually sharing it with somebody who really needs to hear this. And if you really liked it, please leave me a rating and review. That will help me tremendously as a guest, as a host, but it'll also help more people find the show. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week on the Upgrade My Classroom podcast.